Sophie.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, everyone. And welcome to another exciting episode of Gaming in the Yeltsin Years.
No, it's not.
Oh, fuck. And welcome to another exciting episode of It Can't Be Helped. And today, we're talking about a masterpiece by none other than
Koichi Ohata.
Genocyber!
Now, Sin, you are a Koichi Ohata fan. You consider MD Geist to be one of the finest pieces of media ever produced.
Specifically MD Geist 2.
You're swimming against the current in a lot of ways. And the general consensus is that MD Geist is terrible, but Koichi Ohata redeemed himself when he made the superior Genocyber. So I'm interested in how you react to Genocyber. So to explain what Genocyber is, take it away, Andrea Pastora.
Genocyber in 3 mind-blowing parts. When a nutty professor plays with powers beyond his control, you can always be sure something's gonna happen. Well, it doesn't happen any weirder than this. Unbelievable entertainment.
So, Genocyber consists of 5 episodes, right?
Well, okay. Genocyber is an OVA that is 5 episodes long, except the first episode is twice as long as the others. So it's really more like a 6-episode OVA where they've stitched 2 of them together. So when it was released in Australia and the UK, we only got
3 mind-blowing parts,
which were part of
the Cyberpunk collection.
So before we recorded, you looked me dead in the eye and said, I think you should explain the plot of this.
Yes, I did.
So the premise of Genocyber, such as it is compressed into about 7 minutes of non-stop exposition at the start of episode 1. It is incredibly hard to follow. I found myself having to stop and scrub back in the timeline roughly every 10 to 20 seconds just to follow what was going on. So Genocyber begins with a video log recorded by a mad scientist who explains the following. If you view human bodies from what he calls an elevated plane, they have things called mind shadows, and inside the shadows is another universe where chi energy blows like a savage wind. And the wind is called Vajra. He builds a machine called the Mandala.
No, Sophie. The Mandala!
The Mandala.
That's the way he says it. I need you to keep in canon.
It's like he spent a semester in India and I was like, yeah, it's Vajra. It's the Mandala.
That's exactly how he is. Okay, stop.
So the Mandala extends someone's mind shadows to create a plane of infinite Vajra that's manifested within the life source of an unknown power. And that power is a being that will be born to the continual creation and destruction of the universe, and the child is called Genocyber. That's about 90 seconds, I think. So you then get a montage of Hong Kong, and we learn from news reports that all existing military forces, I assume it's in the world, it might just be in Asia, but I think it's supposed to be in the world, they're going to unite into a single unified world military that's based in space, which means that all the research groups that were previously overseen by the various militaries of the world have now become freelancers. And because those groups were developing all of this military technology, they have now themselves become a potential military threat because there's no one to rein them in. So after that, we get a scene of a homeless kid called Rat being beaten up. After that, Rat sees a psychic girl in a weird vision, and then he wakes up and she's there and there's a dead body there. And then it cuts to a news report about unilateral military disarmament. And then it cuts to a gigantic detective who is investigating the murder of a professor. Then it cuts to a lab full of psychic kids that's kind of like Akira. Then it cuts to a psychic lady who makes a child faint by having them hallucinate eyeballs. And then it cuts back to the same detective who's now at the courier group and is asking about the death of the woman who was in the opening video log. And this happens in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
It's incredibly hard to follow, and I still don't know who several of these people are. Like, me explaining it then was essentially exactly what you're shown on camera. So, Genocyber is based on a manga, and you might think to yourself, oh, is that why it's such a mess? Because there's all these, like, complicated subplots and, like, conspiracies and characters in this, like, really long manga that they're having to condense into a single OVA, and consequently, it's a little hard to follow. Now, I read the entirety of the Genocyber manga before we recorded this.
Yes. Okay.
The Genocyber manga is 5 issues long.
Okay.
Not like 5 trade paperback collections long, it's 5 issues long.
Okay.
And the manga ends before basically anything in this happens.
What do you mean? What?
Like, the manga just ends. It doesn't actually have, like, a proper conclusion. The writer just stopped writing it.
Oh.
And consequently, basically every single thing in this OVA, apart from the central concept of a mad scientist makes a psychic bio monster that's powered by 2 sisters' minds fusing together, and, like, a couple of the designs is just entirely made up for the OVA.
Okay.
And considering the places this OVA goes, like, there is like a 100-year time skip at one point. There's a whole arc set on, like, an aircraft carrier during this, like, serial numbers filed off version of the Gulf War. None of that's in here.
Wait. That's the best one, though. 2 and 3 are peak.
Yeah. And they're the ones that, as far as I can tell, that's just Koichi Ohara. So his undiluted vision is what people think is good. So I don't know why they adapted this. It's like he just looked at the Genocyber design and went, oh, that looks cool, I should animate that. Except the Genocyber design in the manga doesn't really look like the Genocyber design in the anime. So now that I've explained the premise of Genocyber, Sin, do you want to explain, like, what happens after that?
After what specifically? There's a lot that happens.
Alright, so after there's 7 minutes of compressed exposition, this is not including, by the way, after the exposition dump happens, they introduce 3 new characters. Keep in mind, this story's 45 minutes long. So what do you remember happening, like, in this?
So, okay. So there's a girl called Elaine. I forget why or how, but she's an experiment by her father, or a scientist who assumes the role of her father. And also she has a sister that's also an experiment, but he likes her better than the sister. And what he's experimenting on is turning them into, like, these Guyver-like robots. But then Elaine runs away, meets the boy on the street, beats up the bad guys, who's like the bad gang. But then some other people show up, and I'm not sure who they're with, and they're like, no, we're, like, also Genocybers, and they're also like genetically modified. And then, like, Elaine beats everybody's butt or something, but also the little boy that's her friend dies, and then she explodes the city.
That's roughly what happens, yeah. So the scientist that they're calling father, right? As you said, he's not their real father. Their father is the guy from the video log in the intro. And in the intro, you see this lady get inside the mandala.
Yeah. Oh, she didn't look very happy.
That's their mother. So because she used the mandala and presumably, like, made contact with either the chi or the vajra or the mind shadow or the savage wind, when she had children, they, like, were born with these psychic powers. So the mad scientist who's in charge now is the guy who used to be the assistant to their father. His name is Kenneth. The way he explains it is Diana's born with psychic powers, but she's very, very physically weak and can't use her muscles. It's weird because you see her in this, like, exoskeleton that's presumably allowing her to move and function. But sometimes she's just not wearing it, and I don't know if, like, that's underneath her skin or if that's just, she just has it on sometimes. So then there's Elaine. And Elaine is described by Kenneth as she has the nervous system of an animal. Whatever that means. But basically the thing about Elaine is She never talks in any of these. So she has these psychic powers that allows her to like send impressions into people's minds. And like you sometimes hear her thoughts, but she never actually speaks. She'll like laugh and smile and things. She communicates with her body language. The Genocyber requires both of them.
Yeah.
So because they're two kind of halves, if you combine them together, you get the Genocyber. But at some point prior to the story beginning, which you think they maybe would have mentioned in the 7 minutes of compressed exposition, Elaine escaped. She's formed a relationship with this street kid called Rat. He's picked on a lot by the bigger kids, like he's quite small. She'll just like play with him, they'll hang out, they'll watch the sunset together. There's a very cute scene where like she picks up a mandarin
Mm-hmm.
with her psychic powers,
Yeah.
and it looks like she's going to crush it into pieces, but she actually peels it and sends the segments toward him, and then they both laugh as he's like catching the segments out of the air with his mouth.
Yeah.
And Diana and Kenneth are trying to recapture Elaine so they can stick her back inside of the Genocyber and reactivate it.
So one thing I do remember is that we were laughing a lot at the scientist father because he's like the world's worst manipulator.
Elaine wouldn't hurt me because she's not angry. She's frightened. She's frightened of you.
Just do as you're told.
Because you need to, to manipulate your daughters into doing things for you, and he'd be like, actually, Diana, I hate you. I love my research, and you're meaningless. Now go do what I tell you.
Yeah, he is like the worst person alive.
Actually,
Okay, this is when I'm starting to like build up in my head, like, who is Koichi Ohara as an auteur? Because the thing about like Elaine, she's presented as this very like kind, caring, in a sense quite childlike, innocent person. And she actively doesn't want to be part of this thing. And then the story is just about like beating her down until she snaps.
yeah,
So this anime has like a reputation for being incredibly graphically violent, right?
yeah,
So when this came out in Australia, it was actually rated R, which is kind of rare for the manga entertainment releases, which tended to get like an M or an MA rating because animated violence basically wasn't perceived as realistic enough to get an R rating. This, of course, leads to my hypothesis about the fuckometer. How did you find the violence in
it
this?
was pretty intense. Like I still remember in episode 2 where the in the beginning the helicopter kills the children and their faces explode. It was pretty
Yeah.
traumatic.
See, I found that, like, I didn't really find the violence in this show that traumatic because, with the exception of what you said, where it's just like a kid gets shot in the head, like, that's quite disturbing.
Hmm.
A lot of the other violence in the show is just so exaggerated and so over the top and so
It is
stylized.
stylized, yeah, very much so.
Yeah, I didn't really find it disturbing, but I did find, like, I can't believe I'm saying this about a Koichi Ohara film, but I found the emotional journey of the characters to be quite traumatic. This is the thing. This is why I start thinking about who is Koichi Ohara, what are his
Yeah,
interests?
yeah,
Because MD Geist, right? The movie everyone's been clowning on for the last 30 years.
yeah.
Via in that movie, right? The female lead. She's really fucking damaged.
Especially in the 2. That's
In the second one,
it's
yeah.
oh, it's so
Yeah, this is the
good.
thing, because you might think, like, oh, he just threw in, like, a sexy lady and then forgot about her. But when he's given total creative control to make MD Geist 2, he makes it about Via.
Yeah.
And what happens in Geist, like, this is interesting in that. So Via, like, kind of opens up to Geist and she becomes, like, attached to Geist as, like, the one person she sort of trusts and can rely on. And then the end of the movie
Hmm.
becomes about, like, focusing back on Via and her realization that she couldn't trust him at all. The horror of the end of MD Geist is not necessarily that Geist has unleashed the Death Force. It's that Via's trust in Geist is broken.
I know, it was heartbreaking. Genocyber.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
We're talking about the first part. It's not, that's the boring one.
Is it more or less boring than the third part?
No, two. Okay, one is boring. Why episode one is boring. Episode two and three are peak. Episodes four and five are.
Various characters try to get Elaine back. This includes Diana, who's in this powered suit. It also includes these three characters who are, I think they're just called the Cyborg Hunters.
I just don't know whose side they're on, and I don't understand what they were doing there.
Yeah, I don't either. How did you feel about their designs? Because I thought they were really cool.
All the designs are cool, especially theirs.
Yeah, so they have a kind of ghost in the shell thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, they just look like a normal human, but then their bodies sort of like split apart and reveal they have these like guns and like probes and things inside them and wires and stuff, and antennas start coming out of their heads.
Mm-hmm.
Except like if you watch that happen in Ghost in the Shell,
Yeah.
like it's clear that this person's body, like it's all mechanical, so it's just like a clean join. When it happens in Genocyber, that looks like that's actual skin that is actually being torn.
Yeah.
Like their bodies are like bursting open, like you see
Yeah.
like tears and cuts
Yo.
open up and blood's coming out. And you see them at various stages of that. So you'll see like the lady from that group will just have like one gigantic metal eyeball, but just like for one scene, and then it'll go back in again.
Yeah.
I don't know where all that stuff is supposed to actually be stored in her body, because like battle mode is about like 5 times larger than she is normally.
Yeah.
And like I read the manga, like I said, and none of that's in the manga at all. Like the cyborg agent assassin characters are in it, but like their head splits open vertically and there's a buzzsaw inside, which implies that I guess they just don't have a brain.
Average Reddit user.
I mean, I self-banned from r/blog, I don't care anymore. So this leads to this confrontation in Hong Kong where they're all fighting, and during the confrontation, there's several like ominous background shots of a passenger plane circling Hong Kong.
Yeah. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh my god, everything's on fire. The plane is circling. Some guy from the plane taking pictures.
Do you want to talk about what happens to the plane?
Well, it crashes.
Who makes it crash?
The main character, Elaine.
So Elaine beats one of the cyborgs by just body slamming him directly into a passenger plane that is in flight.
Mm-hmm.
Which you think is just like an action set piece, but put a little pin on that because it's coming back later on in a way I was not expecting. After the dust settles and you think it's over, Elaine realizes that Rat ends up dying.
It was very like sad. I did not expect that. I thought they were just gonna reunite at the end. It's gonna be like a happy ending. Nah, he dead.
And then Elaine's grief that she feels after Rat dies, like it causes this massive explosion that just wipes out Hong Kong entirely.
Yeah.
Like completely, it's just wiped off the map in this massive explosion of Vajra /Chi /Savage Wind /Mind Shadows. And that's the life force of the unknown power, the child that's born to the continual creation and destruction of the universe known as Genocyber. So, before we move on to Volume 2, which you consider to be the high point,
Yeah.
they're all kind of animated differently. And something that Volume 1 does that the others don't do is it includes like non 2D cell animated sequences. Like it's got sections that are like wireframe animation, it's got sections that are like static shots of models, it's got like real life photographs of Hong Kong used as backgrounds. I don't know if I'm attributing too much intent to Koichi Ohara here, but like when it does that stuff, it's mostly doing it while someone is using psychic powers.
Mm-hmm.
And like it makes those things feel like they are unreal, like they are happening on another level. So like I mentioned during the massive exposition dump,
Yeah.
Diana makes a child faint by having them hallucinate like a spike going into their brain and their eyes falling out.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like a model they made, or like it's stop motion of like some red glop with two eyeballs in it, just slowly falling away. And like there's a scene where Elaine makes one of the cyborg assassins hallucinate that bugs are eating his brain. And they do it by just there's just like a model of a brain and some like puppet bugs that are like chewing on it. I think like on a stylistic level, like this is probably a little better than volume 2, even if the story's not as interesting. Sin, you really liked volume 2. Can you explain it?
I don't know. Okay. I feel like you're better at explaining than me. I feel like you should do it.
Yeah, but you have passion for volume 2.
Um, I okay. So volume two starts off with Elaine, the blonde girl, playing on like a beach or desert or whatever with a couple of friends.
I mean, she's in a war zone.
Oh. And then all of a sudden a helicopter shows up and just like shoots the hell out of the children that she's playing with. And it's like that's the like I said, it's stylistic, but it was very like traumatic. Like their heads and eyeballs explode
Yeah,
and knees and everything. And like, whoa. And she's not happy about that. So she transforms into her Genocyber form and kills the helicopter. While this is happening, we see like a U.S. What do you call those ships? Those submarines?
aircraft carrier.
Aircraft carriers. Yeah, we see like I think it's a U.S. aircraft carrier. Anyway, a box gets shipped into that carrier with like a cyborg inside it.
I think it's a Vajra. They call it a Vajroid.
That sounds like a crane. But yeah, so then they deliver this cyborg, and we meet this new scientist who has the same idea as the previous scientist. But this scientist is cool. He's just like he's not as evil. He's just doing his job, creating cyborgs for wars. You know what I mean?
The guy in volume 2, it's like banality of evil.
Yeah,
Like he's just doing his job. I have spent 10 years and a whole lot of government funding to make this fucking robot.
yeah.
So if anything gets in the way, if there's a safety problem, I don't fucking care. We're just doing it
No, well,
because otherwise this has all been a
well,
waste of time and
yeah,
money.
but actually, there were no safety problems, Sophie. The problem arrived when somebody somehow picked up Elaine and brought her on the carrier.
Yeah,
That's where the problem was. Okay, so remember what happened? They were testing the cyborg. Like, the scientist was like, my cyborg is perfect. He's a perfect pilot. We're going to do a test. We're going to show you. Gets in the airplane, connects himself to the airplane through like these like muscles that are coming out of him and just like becomes one with the
he grows
plane.
like little tentacle
Yeah.
proboscis things out of his body and they just fuse directly into the plane.
Exactly. So he's one with the plane. So he's the perfect pilot and he does his little demonstration. But then at the same time, somebody picked up Elaine from whatever, bringing her to the place where they're at. And that's when the pilot sensed that Elaine was bad. And that's why he like failed his test because he was like, it just like threw him off. He wasn't expecting it. And then people were like, oh my God, your pilot totally sucks. And then they gave shit to the scientist, they gave shit to the pilot, but the pilot did nothing wrong. He's a perfect model and he was on track. And it's Elaine who messed everything up. I feel like I needed to clear the air.
Elaine also, like, her friends were shot and killed in front of her.
Yeah, but it's not the pilot's fault.
So I found this whole aspect of it really interesting because so these two Middle Eastern countries that are fictional, but clearly it's Iraq and Iran. They're called Kairan and I think Omd or something.
Mhm.
So they're fighting, and Elaine's friends are killed in the crossfire of that conflict. But then when Elaine is rescued by the US aircraft carrier, the ghosts of the children
Mhm.
start haunting the soldiers on the aircraft carrier who aren't the ones who killed them.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
Yeah, I felt like it was conflicting. Because you see a guy on the carrier just like hallucinating these children, being like, "Oh no, there's like demons here," and then shooting himself, and it's like,
Yeah.
did he deserve that? I don't know. I don't know, like, you know.
No, but then, like, what ultimately happens with Elaine and like the Genocyber and the Vajra and everything,
Mm-hmm.
is that that's all taken out on the warship.
Yeah.
It's taken out on just everyone who is involved in this conflict. It's like they're all equally kind of culpable. So even the people on the aircraft carrier, even though they haven't technically done anything yet,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that they are involving themselves in this conflict makes them like as guilty to the ghosts as the people who actually killed them. So the two sympathetic characters on the aircraft carrier are a priest and a doctor. And the doctor actually like takes Elaine under her wing. We'll talk a little bit about her later on, but like they're not combat people.
Yeah.
They're there to help people, but it's like the culpability is
Mm-hmm.
on you as well because you're enabling all of this. So this doctor character, she adopts Elaine, and she is the one who ends up with the Via arc in this one.
Yeah, so the doctor basically at this point Elaine becomes the property of the US military, I think, because she just lives on the ship now. They don't try to find her parents. The doctor like kind of like adopts her. Yeah, but the thing is that doctor, that medic, turns out that she actually lost her own daughter, Laura, in an incident, right? So she keeps calling Elaine Laura, and she's kind of like obsessed with her a little bit. I think there's a little bit of a psychological disconnect there.
A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah, but then do you know what Elaine does then? Elaine Laura does then? Because we've established that the cyborg is like trying to warn people like, hey, there's a foreign organism on this boat. You guys, things are not going to end well. Elaine literally goes into the cyborg's office where he's chilling and starts doing like backflips or something. So obviously the cyborg is scared. He's like, that's the organism I'm talking about. So he freaks out a little bit, kind of like gets out of his cell, kills one of the scientists, chases Elaine. And then what happens is Elaine and him end up fighting. She kind of kills him, or most of him. And everybody's like, oh, poor Elaine, poor Elaine. Only the scientists like, what do you mean, poor Elaine? This is clearly not normal. I feel for the scientist, honestly, because, like, come on.
No, but like I agree with you because I think like the interesting thing about Genocyber is that kind of like some characters are presented as sympathetic in the sense that like there's some kind of like emotional turmoil that they're going through, or they have
Hmm.
maybe one or two good intentions. But also it makes everyone equally shit. Like everyone's kind of also doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You can see where the decisions are coming from, but it's also ultimately quite selfish of them.
Hmm.
So like the doctor who adopts Elaine, like on a certain level, yes, she's like nice, she's sympathetic, she's found this like lost girl and she's trying to look after her. But also she's doing it because her own daughter died and she's trying to fill the hole with someone else.
Yeah.
And consequently that means that she doesn't actually treat Elaine like a real person, she treats her like a replacement for her daughter. And again, like that's a real thing that happens.
Hmm.
People who have like a savior complex, people who are trying to like fill a hole in their lives by doing what they're telling themselves is a good thing to do, but in reality you're just using that person as a prop. So what happens after Genocyber and the Vajroid fight?
Like the plane thing? Is that where we're going?
Well, like the hand that
Oh,
like
yeah. Oh,
comes to
this
life.
thing. Yeah. So apparently,
Like how you Genocyber is so fucked up you forgot that there's an extended sequence with a crawling severed hand that infects a battleship.
yeah. So basically, the cyborg is dead, but a hand survives. So you see, the cyborg tries his best to save everybody till the end, but unfortunately, Elaine's thing infects the hand. And that proceeds to just infect the entire ship in these like,
Yeah.
what is it, like fleshy things, like think Hellraiser, think Event Horizon, I don't know, just like
It looks a lot like aliens.
aliens. Yes,
Yeah, like I'm absolutely certain they were thinking of aliens when they designed this, where it's
definitely.
like this sort of military structure that's become cocooned.
Hmm.
So you can see like it's recognizably like this is the inside of the aircraft carrier, but there's these like flesh sort of strands all over everything.
Hmm.
And the the crew of the ship are becoming cocooned inside the flesh that is then fusing with the walls.
Mm-hmm.
And they straight up say, like, the crew of the ship have become one with the ship. Like, it's just one massive organism that's gradually growing more and more biological. Like, the deck of the aircraft carrier is turning into flesh. It's almost like it has a mouth at the front. There's these strands of, like, veins and muscles growing all over the ship. And, like, that itself, like, that calls back to the very beginning when the scientist is talking about why his Vajroid is so cool. Because he says
Yeah.
the Vajroid is the ultimate weapon because the pilot and the war machine become one. And that's what happens to everyone on the ship. Everyone on the ship becomes one with the ship. So it's like, this is the logic of what you were doing taken to its extreme. Also, the battleship itself is like, you can tell that that's the MD Geist guy because he's obsessed with enormous, like, mobile fortresses
Yes.
covered in antenna.
Yep. Oh, that
Yeah.
was beautiful. When I saw it, I'm like, yeah, there we go. There we are. That's our boy.
And, like, we're at the stage where Koichi Ohara is our boy.
But yeah, so but then what happens is like I think it's Elaine that like does she kick his ass?
So, leading up to this point, right,
Mm-hmm.
you hear the characters mention how the doctor's daughter died,
Mm-hmm.
and it was in a plane crash. Which plane crash do you think that was?
Which one?
I was like, no, they're not going to do that. Um, so when Elaine has to fight the possessed Doctor Vajroid thing, she does it by transforming into Genocyber. And at that point, the Doctor realizes, oh, fuck. You're the monster that caused the plane crash that killed my daughter,
Yeah.
who I've attempted to replace with you. And
Yeah.
it completely breaks her brain.
Yeah.
Again, it's the same thing that happens in MD Geist and MD Geist 2. Like, she puts her trust and her faith in something that she kind of has no reason to trust. She's just desperate for there to be someone to trust. And that ends up being her undoing. He wrote a real story.
Yes, that's what it was. It was a real story. It was okay, it wasn't as good as MD Guys 2, but I feel like it was like it was good. It was good.
I think the reason that, like, people dismiss Ohada's work is that, like, his movies don't really seem to have, like, protagonists that you can root for.
No, exactly. Yes.
Like, everyone's equally, like, fucked up and doomed, and everything is completely bleak. And, like, it's got protagonists in the sense it has central characters who you follow and they do things, but they're completely amoral. Like, there's something with a mission.
Yeah.
There'll be, like, a secondary character who is projecting onto them,
Mm-hmm.
but what's being projected onto them isn't, like, actually reflective of who they are.
Yeah.
So it's like this series of, like, doomed relationships, like doomed kind of codependent relationships between damaged people.
No, I love the scientist because he's really not a bad guy. He's just like, I have this job and I'm under so much pressure right now. He can't even if he's like, I hate the military, I want to leave, he can't.
He's in a situation that is itself evil,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just kind of going along with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as far as, like, the morality of the film is concerned, that makes you as bad as everyone else, so you also deserve to be, like, consumed by this mass of, like, flesh and guns.
Yeah.
Do you think this is based on Ohada's experience in the anime industry?
What? Why?
No, like, because he's probably in situations where there's people who are like, I have aspirations of being a great artist, but I have to do the storyboards for this piece of shit and I don't care anymore. Let's just get it done.
Oh my god, maybe, yeah, actually.
And, like, the scientist who's like, well, we poured a whole lot of time and money into this. It's happening even if it's bad. Like, I assume he probably worked with quite a few people like that during the OVA boom.
You know what? I think you're right.
Yeah. Elaine ends up just destroying Chiron completely.
Yeah.
The same way she blew up Hong Kong. So again, like, that's kind of like the logic of the film. Like, if they'd never intervened, if they'd never attempted to like change the course of this war for their own ends, none of this would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
But then like the people killed in the crossfire
Yeah.
end up getting their revenge on you, even though as far as you're concerned you haven't done anything wrong because you weren't there.
No, it's really good. The whole thing just leaves you feeling like uneasy.
So like I was saying, it's like taking the logic of what these people are doing and just running with it until it destroys itself.
Yeah.
So then there's part 3 that is set 100 years later.
Yeah.
This was not released in the UK or Australia by Manga Entertainment. They stop at part 3.
They should have just not even released the first one. Just release 2 or 3, not release anything else.
It had to be released in 3 mind-blowing parts, okay? I think that part of it might be that when it was released, it was part of the Cyberpunk collection.
The Cyberpunk collection.
The Cyberpunk Collection.
And part 3 is not like Cyberpunk. The first one is very, very Cyberpunk.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is like a little bit Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
The third one is like Fist of the North Star.
I didn't even know there was an episode 3. So you sent it to me to watch. I watched it. I was basically really bored and disappointed. I didn't pay much attention. So I know what happened, but I don't get it. I apologize for my passive aggressiveness toward this part 3. It's just like after part 2, I thought like, oh my god, hype, there's more. And no.
I mean, the Genocyber isn't in part 3 that much.
No, just at the very end, maybe.
Yeah, so the premise of part 3 is that after she destroyed Chiron,
Mm-hmm.
Elaine went around and just destroyed the rest of the world. Presumably just by herself.
Yeah,
like she's just
yeah.
visiting every city in the world independently
Yeah,
and
just
blowing it up and then
yeah.
moving on to the next one. So that probably did take like 100 years. Yeah, it just becomes this like wasteland. There's people creating these like kind of fascist little city states saying we'll defend you from the Genocyber. There's a plot about like there's like a religious cult that worship Genocyber,
Mm-hmm.
and the protagonist is a man trying to find a cure for his blind girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
I never realized that there was a part 4 and 5 to Genocyber because part 3 just ends.
Yeah.
So as an MD Geist 2 fan, this is in a lot of ways similar to MD Geist 2, but with Genocyber instead of the Death Force. How do you feel this measures up to MD Geist 2?
It does not measure up to MD Geist 2 in any shape, way, or form. I don't know why you would even say that. You're gonna have to clear it up for me. How does this measure up to MD Geist 2?
Well, because it's the same director making another movie about people in a post-apocalyptic wasteland hiding from a giant monster that is rampaging across the surface and going to kill them.
Yeah, but it's not the same. No, I didn't feel any MD Geist vibes at all. It was just like, what did we watch? The one with the wolf.
Jinro.
Yeah, that's what it was like.
So you're comparing Genocyber Part 3 to Jinro the Wolf Brigade.
Yeah.
There's a similar emotional arc in some ways. I also think it's interesting to compare Part 1 to Akira.
Yeah.
Because they're very, like, similar. Like, it's a similar kind of setting, and it's about, like, psychic kids in this, like, near-future cyberpunk city and everything. But, like, the thing about Akira is that, like, the central relationship between Kaneda and Tetsuo is, like, they're kind of trying to kill each other, but they're also bros. Like, it's like two teenage boys who are friends, and they're, like, fighting with each other over, like, who's the coolest. Like, at the end, like, when Tetsuo's mutating out of control, like, Kaneda's trying to save him. Genocyber is kind of like that, but, like, the one good relationship in it is Elaine and Rat, and that's Seven.
Yeah.
So it's like, what if this happened and there was no human element to it at all, and it just became all-out destruction?
Yeah.
And no one was, like, there's no redemption. There's no, like, connection to anything. It's just, like, death and chaos. Yeah. So we've now unironically compared Genocyber to Akira, Fist of the North Star, and Jinro the Wolf Brigade.
And most importantly, MD Geist 1 and 2.
I'd say it's a little bit better than MD Geist 1
No,
and 2.
no, girl, no. You just forgot. You just haven't seen MD Geist 2 27,000 times. That's why you're saying it. Oh my god, no. This is a hill I will die on. No.
Do you agree with me that Via's speech about being a hyena, that's like the central thesis of Koichi Ohara's oeuvre?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Genocyber is getting that speech and dramatizing it. Instead of having Elaine say, "The army made me this way," you show the army making her that way. He's grown as a creator.
Sophie, do the outro.
That was it can't be helped we're not doing episode numbers anymore because there's too many of them, I'm actually quite happy about that because it shows that we're doing things other than Soul's content.
Good.
Watch Genocyber, it's on YouTube.
It is actually.
It's on archive.org. Like, it is a hard R for a reason. Like, it's quite explicit, but as we were saying, like, the violence is so extreme and so stylized, it sort of just becomes like you don't feel it. Sin, would you say that Genocyber is darker than you remember?
What? What does that mean?
There's a lot of shitty YouTube videos that's like, this thing you grew up with's darker than you remember. And I think Genocyber is darker than you remember.
Oh my god.
Because I think the plot of Genocyber would still be an extremely dark story if it wasn't as violent.
No, definitely. Definitely, I agree with that. Alright, Sophie. Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you, Sin.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.
If vagiroids persist, please see your doctor.